All right, man, peace. So I recently did a video called Are You an Introvert Vol.2 starring Mr. Kyrie Irving, in which I explained that the issue, at least from my perspective regarding Mr. Kyrie Irving, is not that he has a mental problem, it's more that he's an introvert. And many people have issues understanding introverts because the number one problem is that you're trying to understand an introvert as opposed to just going along with their flow. Everyone is not always going to have the same vibe. But as long as they're not self-destructive or destructive to those around them, what they're doing is okay. Now, when it comes to Mr. Kyrie Irving, one can attempt to make the point that his personality issues did affect the Boston Celtics last year. But in lieu of the fact that he recently pointed out that after his grandfather passed away, he suffered from what one might call a depression, I think that has to be weighed in the balance and factored into why so many of the problems that the Boston Celtics had last year they experienced. Well, Kyrie Irving has decided that he's going to respond to some of the allegations that were made by Miss Jackie McMullen in her article about his quote-unquote mood swings. And many of the things that he's going to say are very relevant and very pertinent. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Kyrie addressed yesterday some of the points that were brought up in Jackie McMullen's ESPN story about him a few days ago, particularly the topic of his, quote, mood swings.
And let me say this very quickly before they play the Kyrie clip. What's going on with Kyrie Irving and the Jackie McMullen article is very much akin to a person who has moved on from their former so-called significant other, their proverbial quote-unquote ex-girlfriend, onto someone new, and what the ex-girlfriend has decided to do is tell the new woman everything that she herself did not like about you to hopefully poison the mindset of the new girlfriend towards her man. That's why we're hearing all these rumblings coming out of Boston, because Jackie McMullen works as a beat writer for the Boston Celtics. They're still upset that things did not work out with Kyrie. So all of a sudden, Jackie McMullen is going to act as if she's some type of psychotherapist and she's going to analyze Kyrie and tell the Brooklyn Nets what to expect. And who knows? A lot of it may come to fruition because, once again, Kyrie Irving is an individual and singular talent. He's also a savant. And people who are brilliant at what they do oftentimes are introverted to the point of being isolationists. So you have to take the good with the bad.
You can continue to ask other people around me about what they think about me and continue to write about mood swings. Like, you know, human beings have mood swings. Like, you go home and you're not happy with things, or you're mad at something and you're happy. That's a mood swing. It's okay to be human. Like,
I agree with that. It is okay to be human, but we also have to understand that when we're put in leadership positions, we have to put our personal feelings to the side. And that's the only issue that I have with Kyrie thus far, is that it's very likely that he allows whatever his emotional state is at the time to affect how he interacts with others who are expecting him to hold himself to a higher standard than everyone else. That's what it means to be a leader. You're not allowed to tell yourself, my emotional state at the moment is okay, no matter how it's impacting everyone around me. It's almost like being a parent. There are certain things that great parents hide from their children. They might be struggling with the bills, with the rent, with the mortgage, things of high importance. But what a great parent does is they never let their children see them in those weak moments appearing to sweat or to fret about it. So that's something that Kyrie's going to have to accept if he wants to continue to consider himself a potential leader for the Nets.
I have to be perfect for anyone here, nor do I have to be perfect for the public. So I'm not here to dispel any perception. I'm just here to be myself.
That's a great response. But once again, he is going to have to be able to contextualize his feelings at the moment. Because if he's not able to do that, he is going to affect his team down the line.
I loved that answer from him. That was great. What did you think?
I thought it was great as well. I think that you only have to be perfect for one person, and that's you. The people around you have to accept you for you. But at the same time, as an adult, we have responsibilities to the people around us to make sure that we're scrutinizing ourselves so that they don't have to.
It did remind me a little bit of the Jim Carrey recent kind of way of thinking, where he said, there is no me, there is no person. There was a
Yes, Kyrie can get rather existential at times, overly existential.
There was a detachment from everything else in the world other than what he deems valuable to himself, which is a relationship.
Well, many times people become that way when they notice that the people who are not important to their overall life are trying to impact their life. And that's one of the core aspects of an introvert. Introverts are very good at analysis because they don't take the support of others or being surrounded by others in a group setting. They don't take that as being something that's essential or crucial to their existence. So when people are trying to inject themselves into an introvert's life, they're normally very good at looking that person up and down and reading them properly and letting them know that you don't matter. And in the case of a professional athlete and how he relates to the media wants the professional athlete to believe that they're as important to their future, especially in professional sports, as any other component. That's why the media gets upset when they see an athlete that kind of poo-poos them and tells them, go about your business.
His family and friends. And if that works for him, that's great. But he is also a representative of the NBA, of the Nets, of Nike, of his boxer brief company. You know, there's a business thing going on here too. And
that's relatively true. But I think it's rather presumptuous for you to assume that because Kyrie Irving might not be as transparent with you, or he was not as transparent with you as you wanted him to be while he was with the Cavaliers, that he's going to be the same way when he's trying to promote his boxer brief line or when he's filming a commercial for Nike. That's what's called professionalism. He's able to turn it on and turn it off. I mean, for goodness sakes, the man filmed a movie. So he does know how to go to different chambers. Once again, it's very clear that this person, Dave McMenamin, has an axe to grind. Also remember that he's one of LeBron James's plants in the sports pundit world. He's someone who basically, his job is to push the LeBron James political aspect through the mainstream sports media. That LeBron is this great guy and he's better than Jordan, and everywhere LeBron goes, nothing is ever his fault because he's as magnanimous as Mother Teresa and things of that nature. That's Dave McMenamin. He's one of those people. He's right there alongside Nick Wright and Shannon Sharp, Max Kellerman, etc.
To be able to actually walk through life and not have any of those things matter, opinions matter, perception matter, is a lot harder done than said.
Well,
no, not quite. It depends on how much you care. I mean, to be quite frank with you, I'm someone who does not particularly give a damn about what most people say or what they think. I believe that in order for you to elevate to a higher level of comprehension and understanding, there is a, for lack of a better term, not give a fuck factor that you have to have within you. Because that's what's going to allow you to go places that no one else has ever gone, to see things that no one else can see. Because as soon as people are overly concerned with the opinions of others, that means that their brain is going to start to function on the level of other people. Because by nature, once you're engrafted into, or once you engraft yourself into a group or into a pack, you start to develop groupthink. You start to be able to finish one another's sentences. If you're in a gang with a bunch of other people, if you're a member of a political party, you start to embrace the thoughts of those around you. That's how the human brain works. When people are introverted, they tend to be able to make assessments that are very rarely found because they spend time meditating on what's said as opposed to trying to gain the acceptance from a group. People basically decide that their opinions are going to conform with the group because they don't want to be ousted out of it.
And I agree with you, but there's also a bit of how is he as a father? How is he as a human being? Right? How does he play on the court? Right? Like, yes, there are perceptions that you have to kind of, get rid of, but he's never been in trouble in his life. He's never had an issue. We've never seen any extracurricular stuff with him. So it's like if the worst thing that comes with this player is he's a bit moody or he goes through some things, I'm taking it 100 times. It doesn't mean that Kyrie can't improve and that he can't work on getting better, but he's like, one thing that everyone here knows, if you're constantly searching for everyone's validation and you want everyone to like you, that is a bad place to be.
Absolutely. And that's the road to perdition.
Critical of Kevin Durant on the other end of the spectrum for that. I mean, I'll be honest, of all the different things.
Good point by you, Rachel Nichols. Kudos to you for bringing that up. That the mainstream liberal sports media has been very critical of Kevin Durant for supposedly caring too much about what other people say. So you cannot come back around and issue a diametrically opposed assertion that Kyrie Irving is too cavalier when it comes to how he views the media and the opinions that the media has about him, that he's not caring enough. You can't have it both ways.
Has said and done in public. I thought him taking the flat earth thing to the extent that he did, not just saying it at first with you, Yes, thank you. That's Richard who evoked that from him. But taking it as far as it did, because there's a point where you had actual kids sort of going to their science teachers and that kind of thing. I don't mind him being moody, and I'm curious to get your opinion, Richard, because you experienced with him.
It's not that you don't mind him being moody. It's just that you understand if you were to really pay the issuance to it that you want to, because most liberal women, once again, they become highly irate whenever a man has a personality type that does not involve catering to them. Whenever a liberal woman is around an introverted man, they take it as their duty to either oust that man out of their environment or incrementally break that man down into capitulating to them. Never underestimate how annoyed a random liberal woman will become with the personality type of a man when that personality type does not run in concord with what she finds to be supportive of her or soothing of her. Because once again, the liberal woman or the super liberal woman are narcissistic. Everything has to revolve around her. And the introverted personality type runs in complete opposition to worrying about another person's personality or what they want from that person. Narcissists always want all the attention. An introvert is not going to give it to them. So narcissists want introverted people moved away from them. All liberal females and females period are narcissists. So they have issues normally with introverted men. Of course, there are exceptions to that rule, clearly. But for the most part, the liberal woman is an extreme narcissist. She creates veneers and facades for herself so that she can gather as much attention as she can. And she is going to be offended by a man with a personality type that is not run in accord with what she wants, which is absolute attention.
During a playoff run, I think during an NBA Finals run, right, where he went a few days without talking to any of you guys, and it felt like at the time, because he hadn't done something to that extreme before, there was a lot of guys feeling like, well, what's his static? What's going on? Do we have a problem here? I think people know Kyrie well enough now. If that happened now, I think in the same exact situation, people would just, on your team, would have brushed it off and been like, yeah, Kyrie's done it before, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Well, the issue with the Cleveland Cavaliers back in 2016 and 2017 was that they were basically a cult that was led by LeBron James. What LeBron James established was a corporate office atmosphere where he was the obnoxious executive who was telling his employees what they should be happy about. Number one being his presence in the office. And Kyrie Irving's mentality is, I'm not a cubicle type dude. I want to run my own business. I'm just here because I'm good at what I do. I'd prefer to run my own business. You're annoying me right now. And that's why I believe he retreated into his own shell.
There were things that weren't great about it, but at the end of the day, we never questioned was he going to show up on the court, right? Dennis Rodman sat here on this exact same stage and said...
Another introvert. The only difference is that Dennis Rodman does have a mental issue.
Talk to Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, and they are arguably the greatest team of any decade ever. So you don't have to be best friends, and so a lot of us, it was out of concern.
And beyond that, Dennis Rodman turned rebounding into an art form. If you ever seen Dennis Rodman rebound, many times he would do splits in the air and things of that nature, palm the ball once he rebounded it. He was an artist. Introverts tend to be savants. Savants express themselves in an independently artistic way in whatever they do. Kyrie Irving with his dribbling abilities, same thing.
Is Kyrie okay? And he becomes a bit of an introvert, right, in those moments. And like he said in Boston, his grandfather had passed away and he became an introvert and he struggled with that. That's okay to struggle with that, and how everyone deals with it is very, very different. So I'm not going to be critical of Kyrie because he all of a sudden didn't show up. Now, look, he didn't play great in Boston in the second round. That's fine, right? So you can be critical of his play. But ultimately, if that's how he wants to handle things and that's how he wants to go about it, as long as you're not getting in trouble, as long as you're not causing any problems and you're a good person, which he is, you just have to accept him for him.
Well, I partially agree with that. Right now, at 27 going on 28 years old, he's considered the leader of that Brooklyn Nets squad. He's no longer the young guy on the Cavaliers. So he's going to have to accept more responsibility than just Kyrie being Kyrie.
Not so naive to think that in the limited media interactions that we have with these players that I actually get a full sense of who these players are. But this is one example. My first season covering him, I felt like I got to see a little bit behind the curtain. I played basketball with his father that summer leading into the season at a fantasy basketball camp in Vegas, and I had a brief conversation with Kyrie, and I was like, it's cool that, you know, I played with Dredd and he's still playing, and that you guys share this love of the game, and he's able to pass it on to his son. And Kyrie said, yeah, I love the game. And I said, like, man, it must be great for you. You get to, like, do this thing you get to love, that you love every day, right? And he's like, well, no, I love it, and I love playing when I want to play it.
Yeah.
I have to play in this.
That's the thing. Introverts do not like to be in control atmospheres for very long because they express themselves independently. So once again, that's the element that you're going to have to deal with. And once again, Dennis Rodman was the same way. He would just go off on road trips on his own to Vegas, so on and so forth. But what Phil Jackson did, being the MK handler coach that he was he chose to adapt to Dennis Rodman's ways, not try to make Dennis Rodman conform to some strict regimen. And that's where the San Antonio Spurs failed Dennis Rodman and failed themselves. And that's why the Chicago Bulls were able to not just utilize Dennis Rodman's gifts, but optimize his gifts.
So I got to see a little bit of, like, the weight of the situation that he's in. And it's a little shred of humanity.
Well, and one thing that Kyrie...
A little shred of humanity. Once again, you could tell Dave McMenamin does not like Kyrie Irving. Once again, Dave McMenamin is one of the pawns of LeBron James Incorporated. And as we all know, it's always in LeBron's best interest to have his pawns on television talking poorly about Kyrie, because they like to blame Kyrie for why LeBron James was unable to win the championship in 2017 and 2018. Even though if you're LeBron James and supposedly you're the best basketball player in the world, you're supposed to be able to outplay Kevin Durant, and that did not happen in either 2017 or 2018.
Though he said that when he's done playing basketball, he might disappear. Like,
that wouldn't shock me at all. Not only do I expect Kyrie Irving to disappear, I expect another introvert, Kawhi Leonard, to completely disappear after he's done playing basketball. I was talking about this with a brother the other day. Shout out to my brother Avery. We were talking about this, and I said, Kawhi Leonard is that dude who might sign one more contract after this contract is up. I believe he has 2 more years after this year, or 1 more year with an option after this year, which would take him to around 30 years old. I could see him signing 1 more 3-year deal and then just riding off into the sunset, never to be seen again. Kyrie Irving might do the same thing. Who knows?
Like, he's like, dude, I'm here and this is a part of it, but when I'm done, like, I'm not going to continue putting myself out there. So sometimes all of this isn't for everyone.
You can
Agreed.
make that kind of money. You can go do whatever you like after your professional career.
Hell, even Michael Jordan, who many people have always considered an extrovert, to me, he's an introvert with extrovert aspects or characteristics. He was someone who perceptively was very outgoing, but who also liked to be by himself. And he's someone who, even though he owns the Charlotte Hornets, loves to be by himself. Now, could it be it's because he's actually an introvert, or could it be that he's just worn out from 35 years of being the most famous man, arguably the most famous man on the planet Earth? Who knows? But either way, those are things that many great athletes do. They just recede into the distance. They no longer want to be seen or paid attention to because they're good. And an introvert like Kyrie, and definitely Kawhi, they're both going to do that. They're never going to be seen again. I could see Kyrie retiring at 31, 32, going away for 5 years, and then popping up somewhere in Nepal or Tibet with a long-ass white beard, still only somewhere in his late 30s, and looking like he's 50 years old with some prayer beads around his neck. I could see that. With Kawhi, I could see him retiring and opening up his own weed dispensary in LA and growing long-ass dreadlocks. You walk into Kawhi's shop and asking for some of his products, and he's like, "Arr." But anyway, be proud of who you are. If you're an introvert, don't put on an act for anybody. You're only going to embarrass yourself. Most of these people who call themselves extroverts are inwardly embarrassed that they don't know who the hell they are. So peace.